Hello and welcome to News Central TV. My name is Mazino Appeal. The top stories at this hour. Defense chief orders probe into deaths of Okwama leader in military custody. And another 500 million naira defamation suit slammed on human rights lawyer Dele Farotimi. Kenyan doctors to strike over unfulfilled government promises. And the details coming up now. Now, let's begin by telling you that the Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa has directed an investigation into the deaths of Okwama leaders James Owuru and Dennis Okubayi while in army custody. The two detained during a military operation in August reportedly died 6 days apart. The operation followed the killing of 17 soldiers on a peace mission between Okwama and Okoloba communities in March. Brigadier General Tuko Gusau, Director of Defense Information, confirmed the probe, stating the Nigerian Army 6th Division must submit findings by Monday. Gusau emphasized that the military remains committed to uncovering the truth, adding that for now the reports are mere allegations. And in the meantime, the family of 81-year-old Dennis Okuwaye, treasurer of the Okwama community in Delta State, has revealed the circumstances of his death in military detention on December 10th. 2024. They disclosed that they paid 140,000 naira to military officers for fuel to transport their ailing father from Port Harcourt to Asaba, only to be informed later that he had died en route. Okubaye's death follows that of the community's President General Pa James Owuru, who also died in military detention. Both were among 6 community leaders detained without trail since August, following the killing of 17 soldiers during a peace mission. Social critic Zik Gbemre has condemned the governor's inaction, calling it a failure of leadership and institutional accountability. Now let's turn our attention to the courts. The senior, or rather a senior advocate of Nigeria and a partner at Afe Babalola Law Chambers, Olu Daramola, has filed a 500 million naira suit at the Ojodu Abiodun Division of Ogun State High Court against Dele Farotimi for alleged defamation in his new book titled Nigeria and Its Criminal Justice System. The suit was filed barely a month after the one filed by Afe Babalola over similar allegations of defamatory words in the book. The writ, dated December 13, 2024, was taken on behalf of the applicant by Ihienyi Chukwu C. Ua on behalf of Daramola. The claimant is seeking a declaration that the book, authored by the defendant and in circulation within and outside the country and within the jurisdiction of the court, contains some defamatory words on page 64. And now the Supreme Court in Abuja has dismissed a suit by former presidential candidate Ambrose Owuru of the Hope Democratic Party, fining him 5 million naira for filing a frivolous case against President Bola Tinubu. Justice Wani Abaji condemned Owuru's claim as vexatious and barred the court registry from accepting further frivolous filings from him. Owuru, who sought Tinubu's removal, alleging non-qualification and usurpation of office. The court criticized Owuru's conduct, rejecting his arguments as unconvincing. It also noted a previous 40 million naira fine imposed by the Court of Appeal on Owuru for similar actions. The latest ruling reinforces the judiciary's stance against baseless legal harassment. And we now go back to our previous story about the Okwama community, and to discuss that with me, I'm joined by Executive Director, Sterling Center for Law, Deji Ajare. You're welcome, Deji. Good to have you here.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me.
My apologies, Deji. I had referred to it as the Okwama story, but no, we're here to talk about the lawsuits that was filed in court. And let me start by asking, first off, what are the legal definitions of punitive or punitive damages in Nigerian law, and how could that apply in this case?
As you are probably aware, because there are types of defamation within that are recognized within the judicial legal justice system, and that one is criminal, one is civil. It's important for us to point out that while criminal defamation exists in our books, its history is colonial in nature. Criminal defamation is something that these colonial masters adopted as a way of suppressing dissent amongst the locals at that time. And it has been in our books all this while. And matter of fact is that all over the world, I think it is commonly agreed that criminal defamation is inappropriate, and that anybody who feels aggrieved, anybody who believes that his reputation has been harmed by statements made whether in writing in a permanent form or orally, such a person can approach the court and file a civil suit, and there are adequate remedies that can be made. Courts have over the years made awards of damages against punitive damages against offending persons. Courts have sometimes ordered that apologies should be offered, sometimes in national dailies. Sometimes courts also direct maybe the offending person to take steps to stop the dissemination of the materials that is offensive. And so, yes, I think across the world, everybody agrees that civil suits are adequate to remedy any alleged defamation.
Okay, so while we're talking about that defamation case, as is being alleged now, how would the court actually determine the appropriate level of damage for reputational harm or defamation, as is the case here? How would they know that this is the level that it has caused the person or the complainant harm?
Usually, this would depend on the status of the person who has been allegedly defamed, one, the status of the person, and the nature of the offensive statement that is complained about, and as well as the extent of its dissemination. Usually, these are the things. And of course, if the applicant can also show through tangible evidence that it has a loss of reputation, the reputational loss has actually occasioned actual economic losses. So, for instance, in the case of Dele Farotimi and Afe Babalola, if Afe Babalola can show through tangible evidence that he has lost cases, briefs, or clients as a result of the alleged defamatory statement that was made against him, and that such statement is untrue, then of course the court, it's going to affect the quantum of damages that the courts are going to assess in respect of the matter.
So that's called burden of proof now, isn't it? And regarding this case, who's going to have to carry that?
Is always on he who alleges.
Okay, so it will be on he who alleges that has to prove this. Okay, so are there any... All right, then. So are there any procedural steps that Dele Farotimi himself can take to delay or dismiss the lawsuit at any stage, or at this stage, since it's still early?
Well, there is only one defense against defamation. I mean, and it is justification. It's simple. So once the truth or justification, all Dele Farotimi needs to do, if he has any evidence of the allegations he has made that would substantiate, that would show that indeed the claims he made are true, or alternatively, that in some other incidences, yes, the learned seal, Afe Babalola, has been found wanting, has been engaging in criminal corruption of the judiciary, then of course, that would be justification, and that would vindicate him in this matter. The burden of proof, I must tell you, is not such that can be easily satisfied. It would require tangible, provable, tangible evidence to show indeed that yes, Afe Babalola has been engaging in, has engaged himself in corrupting or has exercised corrupting influence on the judiciary as alleged by Dele Farotimi.
Deji Ajari, I want to say thank you very much for giving us your expert opinion on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Do have a good evening.
Now, President Bola Tinubu's presentation of the 47.9 trillion naira 2025 budget proposal to the joint session of the National Assembly, initially scheduled for Tuesday 17th December, has been postponed to Wednesday 18th December. According to Senate sources, the rescheduling was confirmed by a senior management official of the National Assembly. We also understand that an official statement regarding the postponement is expected shortly. The proposed budget is part of the 2025-27 midterm expenditure framework approved by the Federal Executive Council last month. The framework includes plans for 9.22 trillion naira in new borrowing to address the budget deficit. It also sets an oil price benchmark of $75 per barrel, a daily production target of 2.06 million barrels, and an exchange rate of 1,400 naira to the dollar. Now, Delta State Governor Sheriff Owuru has criticized President Bola Tinubu's economic policies, accusing them of causing unprecedented hunger, poverty, and unemployment while turning Nigeria into the world's poverty capital. Owuru's reaction follows Senator Ovie Omo-Agege's endorsement of Tinubu's policies, which he claimed had increased federal allocations, boosted economic growth, and benefited farmers. The governor dismissed these claims, questioning the value of increased funds amidst inflation, naira devaluation, and mass poverty. Owuru also highlighted reports from the World Bank and IMF, which he said confirmed the failure of Tinubu's policies, urging caution against adopting similar models in Delta State. The statement signed by his aide Felix Ofo warns against policies that exacerbate economic hardship, describing them as unsuitable for Deltans. Staying in Delta State, where the people of Taware community in Patani local government area, whose son was appointed Commissioner for Youth Development by Governor Sheriff Owuru a few months ago, have called on him to prioritize the needs of Delta youths while implementing the MORE agenda of the state government. A cross-section of them spoke at the homecoming ceremony of the commissioner in the community after his Thanksgiving service at the Mountain of Fire Ministries. Meanwhile, the commissioner, Takiriowe, thank God, described his appointment as divine and assured Delta youths that the issue of youth unemployment would soon be a thing of the past across the 25 local government areas of the state.
He needs to work hard. He needs to take people along. He needs to prove himself before the governor that this trust, this confidence you have in me, specifically about the youths, I shall not disappoint you. That is the message.
My message to him is he needs to work more on the MORE agenda so that more youths can be engaged intellectually and physically.
Message to the commissioner, you have to stamp pen and work with everybody, and work to the governor to make sure say make Patani local government and Tawari community shame. And he have to go straight and as in talk one word now, one word. Carry everybody along.
As the Commissioner for Youth Delta State, the governor who has the flair to see that the youth in Delta State, they are all empowered through different parastatals. Many has been going on. And I believe by the special grace of God, Delta State has not seen anything. Before this time next year, I know it will be hard for we to see a youth that is not engaged in Delta State, because the MORE agenda is all encompassing to touch the life, the youth of Delta State.
And now a break. But when we get back, a fraud bust. EFCC arrests 792 suspects over romance scams and others when we get back. And you're welcome back. Now, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has achieved a significant milestone by arresting 792 suspects linked to cryptocurrency investment fraud and romance scams. Speaking at a press briefing on Monday at the Commission's Lagos office, EFCC Director of Public Affairs Wilson Uwujare said the suspects were apprehended during a surprise operation conducted on Tuesday, 10th of December. The raid targeted a hideout in Victoria Island, Lagos. Uwajere said the operation followed months of surveillance and actionable intelligence on the syndicate's activities. Among the suspects arrested were 148 Chinese nationals, 40 Filipinos, 2 individuals from Kazakhstan, 1 Pakistani, and 1 Indonesian. The EFCC added that Nigerian accomplices were recruited by foreign masterminds to execute phishing schemes targeting unsuspecting victims across the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and several European countries. Now, an accident involving a J5 Ford bus and a Mercedes truck happened along the 3rd Mainland Bridge on Monday morning in Lagos. According to the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority, the accident has resulted in the death of 1, leaving 4 others injured. The LASMA Director, Public Affairs and Enlightenment Department, Adebayo Taufik, in a statement on X on Monday, disclosed that LASMA officials, led by General Manager Olalekan Bakaroki, arrived promptly at the scene and began rescue operations. The statement gave further details on the tragic incident, reporting that all affected were transported to the General Hospital on Lagos Island for medical attention. Additionally, finding suggests that the J5 bus experienced brake failure while traveling at high speed, resulting in a collision with the Mercedes truck. Nigeria's headline inflation rate rose to 34.6% in November 2024, up from 33.88% in October, marking the 3rd consecutive month of rising inflation, according to data released by the National Statistics Agency. Month-on-month, the inflation rate stood at 2.64%, underscoring ongoing price surges across goods and services. After easing briefly in July and August, inflation resumed its upward trajectory in September, driven by the lingering effects of the Naira devaluation and successive petrol price hikes. These factors have intensified the country's worst cost of living crisis in decades. Now, in response, the Central Bank of Nigeria has implemented 6 interest rate hikes this year, totaling 875 basis points in a bid to rein in inflationary pressures. Now, to help us make sense of this, we're joined by Research and Insights Associate Norimberga, Samuel Oyekami. Samuel, you're welcome. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, good evening. Thanks for having me.
Good. Now, Samuel, what are the key drivers behind the persistent rise in Nigeria's inflation rates that we're experiencing, and how do structural issues in the economy exacerbate these pressures?
I think the factors impacting inflation in Nigeria still remains the same. Of course, you want to go back to about over a year ago when the federal government removed fuel subsidy, and how the price of fuel has pretty much increased such since then, affecting cost of transportation and also having some form of a multi-faceted effect on several other commodities, one of which is also food. So energy has gone up, impacting core inflation. Food inflation has its own seasonal effect, and then there's also the impact of energy prices affecting food prices. So you've seen pretty much both sides of the inflation basket, or the 2 components of inflation, increasing same way. And food inflation, of course, because you have many other factors contributing to that, is growing at a much faster rate compared to core inflation. And then it's just an unfortunate situation, but that's where we are. Policy and then structural issues all combining to exacerbate what we see right now as inflation. And in terms of structural issues, we want to talk about the fact that, particularly when it comes to food inflation, when you talk to farmers, you see you have a glean of some of the factors impacting food supply in the country, one of which includes access to seedling, fertilizers, the movement of food produce from farm to the market. It could also be as a result of storage facilities, bad road, and so on and so forth. Pretty much, it's really a lot. One of them, again, is also insecurity. And it's just quite, it's really a conversation that has happened happening over the years. and it's not seeming, it doesn't appear like it's changing any bit. At north of 34%, that's really an ugly figure to see at this point in the year.
Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, or is it months ago now, there was plenty hullabaloo about the central bank increasing interest rates. So how effective has that been, the increase of Nigeria's interest rates on curbing inflation, and what other monetary or fiscal measures could complement these efforts?
Yeah, so the CBN increasing interest rates, I think personally that doesn't so much has so much a significant impact on inflation, because then again, when the CBN tries to or raises interest rate, the idea is to tighten liquidity, reduce money supply. Money supply is at record highs right now, and then you have the situation of the currency in circulation and the currency outside banks. So you have about 92% of the currency in circulation being outside the banking system. As an economist, you want to ask yourself, how then will interest rate hikes have any form of impact on inflation, or at the end of the day on the currency or on money supply? So it's pretty much a tricky question. I don't think it has so much impact on inflation. Yeah, we saw some reversals some months ago, and that for me was as a result of base effect. So we had highs at some point last year. Again, when you compare them year on year, you start seeing the numbers not growing at a fast pace as you would. But then a little tweak in some of the factors that contribute to inflation, one of which was the surge in energy prices and a host of many other things. And then the seasonal effect of food inflation. We went back again to the current levels that we are. We're currently dealing with over 28-year high in terms of headline inflation. And it just speaks to a number of fiscal, monetary. Of course, the monetary side is doing its bit, right? But then there's also inflationary policies from the fiscal side of government. So there really needs to be a handshake. As much as the CBN is trying its best, of course, using the tools that we are within its own ambit to fight inflation, the fiscal side really needs to start looking at some of the factors that is driving inflation. So when you look at the numbers from the MBS today, you see that some of the components that recorded significant highs, one of them is imported inflation. So you ask yourself, why Nigeria, that has an agricultural sector that contributes over 20% and then over 50% of the labor force still has to export so much agricultural produce, and beyond that is also subjected to many of the shocks happening in that market. So there really needs to be a handshake. The government really needs to start finding some of the factors that is contributing to the surge in prices, especially for those imported food items. It could be one of them, again, is the exchange rate issue, where I think the CBN is also doing a lot to manage. So of course, there needs to be a handshake between the monetary side of things and then the fiscal side of things. Fiscal deal with structural issues, insecurity, and most of many other things like tariffs, taxes, and all that.
So let's talk about that handshake now. What measures can be implemented to stabilize, especially food prices, because that's where the common man actually suffers the most. Food prices, and also improve accessibility to these foods for the low-income earners.
Yeah, so of course, if you look at the food side of things, so for me, if you want to solve a problem, you really need to start looking at what are the causes of those problems. So you look at the agricultural value chain, where are those loopholes standing? So first, the farmers do not have access to credit, they don't have access to good fertilizers and seedlings. How can the government come in to be able to ensure that those farmers have access to some of these things that they need as input? And then again, in the process, what's the agricultural system that we adopt in Nigeria? The government and private sector also need to come in play to be able to manage this side of things. Then again, you come to issues of insecurity. Farmers do not have access to their farmlands, because you need to be able to deal with the supply side of things. So you need to be able to deal with insecurity. You also need to be able to ensure that the food that is produced in the farm can easily get to the market. So what are the things that you need to do? Good roads, ensure that there is safety on the road. You also want to find a way to probably suggest or again encourage mechanized farming, either through private-public partnership, for these farmers to have access to the funds that they need. And then again, you look at statistics, you see post-harvest losses that these farmers have to endure as a result of lack of warehousing or storage facilities. How can the government, of course, I don't think the government can do it alone, but how can the government incentivize private players to come into these respective areas of the agricultural value chain in order to ensure that food is sufficient? Because if we are able to solve that, I think we will find enough to be able to feed the nation and then even export, and then some FX inflows. But that's my take from the fiscal side.
Well, Samuel, your take was good enough because you took the question right out of my mouth. But thank you very much for giving us your expert opinion about the situation. Thank you. Now we go on a short break, but when we come back, youth and hustle culture. That's what we'll be talking about, balancing ambition and mental health. Stay with us. Now, in contemporary society, hustle culture has emerged as a hallmark of youth ambition. Young people are frequently encouraged and pressured to pursue success with unyielding determination. While this mindset fosters drive and financial independence, it also sparks critical conversation about its impact on mental health. The constant push to remain productive around the clock often comes at the expense of rest, self-care, and introspection. So News Central's Chidima Ona takes a closer look at this phenomenon, exploring how young individuals are navigating the fine line between ambition and well-being.
In today's world, the term hustle culture has become a defining feature of modern youth life. Young people are often celebrated and pressured for their relentless pursuit of success. While this culture promotes ambition and financial independence, it has also raised concern about its toll on mental health. Tolulokpe Duncan shares her strategies for managing the dual demands of hustle culture and mental health.
I define success personally. So what I see as success is different from what every other person is seeing as success, and I set the standard for myself so I don't over-push myself, because I believe that without me being sane enough, I might not be able to be productive. So I go all out to do things that are bringing values.
On the streets of Lagos, everyday young people share their personal experiences with the pressure to keep hustling while taking care of their mental health.
My office, they go feel am because they go know say I know they're in a good mood that day. And they already used to me, so they have to manage me. Yeah, they have no option but to manage me. But doesn't mean I'm going to cause nuisance, but they know say, you don't fool ahead.
It has not been easy. Waking up very early as 5, most times 4:30 to wake up, bathe. I have kids, about 3. So imagine trying to take care of them, going to school, then now head out. It has not been easy.
Speaking with Oluwatomise, a mental health advocate with years of experience, she highlights some of the common mental health issues linked to the relentless pursuit of success.
The most common and basic outside diagnosis will be low moods that might lead to depression and, of course, anxiety, which can lead to panic attacks.
As hustle culture continues to dominate the lives of many young people, it is clear that finding balance is not just a personal challenge, but a societal one. In Lagos, reporting for News Central, I am Chidima Ona.
Now, the Kenyan Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union has announced plans for a nationwide strike, citing the government's failure to honor key agreements related to pay and working conditions. Speaking on Monday, the union described the protest as a means to pressure the government into implementing long-standing commitments, including the collective bargaining agreement signed on 30 June 2017 and the return-to-work formula agreed upon on 8th of May 2024. The union expressed frustration over the government's inaction, saying it has negatively affected doctors' welfare and disrupted health services across both public and private sectors. This planned strike follows months of similar industrial action from March to May, which ended with government promises of resolution.
Months down the line, the government has implemented 0 of our agreements, but instead they have gone much deeper into violating even the CBA. We have now doctors whose wages have been reduced by over 70% and have been paid a net of 41,000 Kenya shillings from a net of 160,000 shillings. So we are here to dramatize and to tell government that we are ready for action, and come the Sunday 22nd midnight, all the doctors across the country will be out of work. When we get out of work, there will be no going back to work until we have evidence of the issues we agreed implemented, that the doctors whose salary were reduced are actually paid as expected, that the CBA is implemented, and the return to work formula that we agreed, which is a court order, is also implemented. We are here to dramatize the government failure to implement agreements that we had on 8th of May 2024 after our 56-day strike. We agreed that they will pay the interns doctors the right wages as per the collective bargaining agreement, that they will pay doctors the debts that they owe them for the last 7 years, that they will employ more doctors, that they will implement the content of the CBA.
People who have attempted suicide as medical doctors from frustration are uncountable. And we know what is causing all this, and we know how to manage this. Please, the leaders that are outside there, give us what is just, give us what we deserve. We are not politicians, we are not politicking, we just want what is just for the doctors.
The Congolese army lost territory on Monday in fighting with Rwanda-backed rebels in eastern DR Congo, a day after a peace summit between the president of the two countries was cancelled. Since 2021, the Kigali-backed M23 rebel militia has seized swaths of the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo, displacing thousands and triggering a humanitarian crisis. DRC armed forces lost control of Matembe, a town in North Kivu province, after clashes broke out Sunday with the M23. Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi and his Rwandan counterpart Paul Kagame were due to meet Sunday, hosted by Angolan President João Lourenço, the African Union mediator, to end the conflict. But the summit was abruptly cancelled after talks between delegations from both sides stalled overnight. Our German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has called for massive investment in defense and security, emphasizing the urgent need for Germany to strengthen its preparedness amid the ongoing war in Ukraine. Speaking ahead of a crucial confidence vote, Scholz stressed that the time for decisive investment in Germany's future is now, particularly in its defense sector. He cited the war in Ukraine, just 2 hours flight away, as a compelling reason to exchange, or rather to enhance, national security. Scholz also addressed concerns about Germany's armed forces, which he described as being in a deplorable state prior to his announcement of a special 100 billion euro defense fund following Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine.
Heute führt eine hochgerüstete Atommacht Krieg in Europa nur 2 Flugstunden von hier. Wir müssen massiv in unsere Sicherheit und Verteidigung investieren, um diese Herausforderung zu bestehen. Heute sind wir mit schweren wirtschaftlichen Verwerfungen konfrontiert: Energiekrise, Abschottung, unfairer Wettbewerb. Das trifft gerade unsere weltweit vernetzte Wirtschaft härter. Schon gesagt. Ursächlich für meine Entscheidung, die Regierungskoalition zu beenden, war aber etwas anderes. Ursächlich war eine noch viel bedeutendere Frage, nämlich die Frage, ob und wie wir in unser Land investieren. Kraftvoll und entschlossen oder kleinkrämerisch und verzagt. Von dieser Frage hängt alles andere ab. Unsere Sicherheit, unser künftiger Wohlstand, die Wettbewerbsfähigkeit unserer Wirtschaft, gute Arbeit und Bildung und nicht zuletzt der soziale Zusammenhalt im Land.
President Vladimir Putin has claimed that Russian forces have gained the upper hand along Ukraine's front lines and are accelerating their advance. Now, speaking during a televised meeting with military leaders, Putin said Russian troops are holding the strategic initiative across the entire contact line. He said Russia had captured 189 Ukrainian settlements this year, calling 2024 a landmark year for Moscow's military campaign. Defense Minister Andrei Belousov reported that Russian forces have seized nearly 4,500 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory this year, advancing by approximately 30 square kilometers daily.
Сразу отмечу, что уходящий год стал знаковым в достижении целей специальной военной операции. Благодаря профессионализму и мужеству наших воинов, героическому труду работников оборонных предприятий или поистине всенародной поддержки армии и флота, российские войска прочно владеют стратегической инициативой на всей линии боевого соприкосновения. Только в текущем году освобождено 189 населенных пунктов.
Now, Nigeria's economic landscape in 2024 has been marked by a complex mix of challenges and opportunities. Although the government has introduced reforms to stimulate growth, various factors still impede progress. Initiatives such as the removal of subsidy and changes in tax policies reflect the government's desire to reshape the economic framework. However, concerns remain about how these changes will affect living standards and business operations. Key sectors, including energy, agriculture, and technology, present significant opportunities, but achieving success depends on effective governance and collaboration with the private sector. Basil Abia, co-founder of Veriv Africa, shared his thoughts on this topic during his appearance on Business Edge.
Stabilization that will come into force, because if you look at the numbers, we're currently doing 3.22%. We will find out the eventual inflation rate, well, not inflation rate in that sense, but what I'm trying to say is we'll find out the eventual GDP growth rate for Q4 sometime early next year. So that's when we'll be able to know the Q4 for 2024. But projections from FDC, Financial Derivatives Company, is that we're expecting a 3.22% for Q4 2024. FDC's Financial Derivatives Company's projections, and juxtaposing it with projections from the, not projections, but from actual data from the MBS, as well as a juxtaposition with that of...
South African blind football team has set off for the International Blind Football Tournament in Russia, taking place from the 18th to the 20th of this month. This groundbreaking journey not only showcases the unwavering spirit and determination of the remarkable athletes, but also highlights a significant step towards forward for inclusivity in sports on a global stage. Bongani Sisiba has more on this.
In a world where sight is often taken for granted, a remarkable story is unfolding. The first blind football team from South Africa is jetting off for a groundbreaking journey to Russia, where they will compete in an international tournament against some of the biggest teams in the world. For these young boys, this is not just about football, it's about breaking barriers and showing the world that disability doesn't mean inability.
This trip is about the first international blind soccer games happening in Russia with BRICS countries. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Kazakhstan, Turkey as well included. And we started blind soccer 3 years ago in South Africa. So this has been, I guess, one of the longest running teams in the country. And so they were looking for representation to represent the country, and they decided to call me up as coach and call us up as well.
This team, composed of talented athletes from across South Africa, has trained hard to get here, overcoming personal and societal challenges to pursue their dreams, and today they are heading to a bigger stage to showcase their talent.
I'm very exhilarated. I'm so excited, and overall I'm honored to have been afforded the opportunity to represent my country nationally.
This is more than just a team. They've built a family. Each player has something unique to bring to the game. But how do visually impaired athletes play football? I asked.
Blind soccer is a five-a-side version of soccer, and all the players except for the goalkeeper will be blindfolded, and basically you just listen to the ball has sounds, and yeah, that's it. That's how you play. You basically have to listen to the ball, talk to your fellow players, and try to score as much as you can while defending, of course. That's the game.
For families and friends, they're bustling with pride, knowing their children are breaking barriers and redefining what's possible.
ngizizwa ngijabule kakhulu wabona umntwana usulile thina abazali izinyembezi.
A call for support, as this is not just about football, it's about fostering a culture of inclusivity where every child, regardless of ability, has a chance to participate and excel in sports.
To Africa, I just want to say this is big for us. Please look out for our team. Please send well wishes to them. They need to come back with the trophies.
As these athletes take to the skies, the team carries not just their bags, but the dreams of countless young athletes back home. The road to Russia is more than just a journey. It's a testament of strength, courage, and unity. At the OR Tambo International Airport in Johannesburg, for News Central, Wangani Siziba.
We're going on a short break now, but when we come back, we have more sports coming your way. Still sports here. Spartans Flag Up Football Club retained their Showtime Bowl Series 11 title on Sunday, December 15th, with a hard-fought 64-53 victory against the Warriors. The Warriors had gone into the final on an 11-game winning streak, coupled with the best defensive record, setting the stage for a tight contest. The first two quarters were closely contested, and it was all square at halftime, with both teams level on 44 points. But the Spartans eventually took the lead by the end of the third quarter and kept up the momentum till the end, walking away with the 6 million naira grand prize. Afterwards, the league commissioner Adebare Adejumo spoke about the growth of the league, what they hope to achieve, and the chance of Nigeria presenting a flag football team to compete at the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics.
What we've given here to Nigerians is to show that flag football is the most inclusive sport existing right now. That is why we have the variation of flag football that we play, right, which is the co-ed version of the sport. You have men here, you have women here. So what this sport says basically is that no matter where you come from, no matter what your age is, I mean, in this league we have from the age of 15 to about 47, right? And this is the first professional league in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa, if not the whole of Africa, right? We've tried it this season to see how it will look, and hey, I'm pretty sure you guys will agree with me that we gave it a show. That's why we call it Showtime.
And that's all the news this hour. But before we go, let's take a look at some of the major stories we brought your way. Defense chief has ordered probe into deaths of Okwama leaders in military custody. And another 500 million naira defamation suit has been slammed on human rights lawyer Dele Farotimi. We also told you that Kenyan doctors are set to strike over unfulfilled government promises. Now, to remember, you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Able TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.